Picture this. For thousands of years, life moved at the speed of a person's hands. If you wanted more cloth, more tools, more anything, you needed more people. Then, in late 1700s, Britain, something changed. People learned how to pull power out of the ground, multiply it, and feed it into machines that never got tired. In a short span of time, quiet villages turned into smoking cities. Home workshops turned into factories. And the world started speeding up like it couldn't hit the brakes. This is the story of the Industrial Revolution. The moment humanity stopped depending on wind, water, and animals, and started building a new civilization driven by coal, steam, iron, and machines. For most of human history, daily life followed a predictable rhythm. People worked when the sun was up. They planted and harvested with the seasons. Tools were simple, and power came from muscles, horses, rivers, and wind. Even in 1700, a merchant lived in a world that still looked a lot like ancient times. Local production, handmade goods, limited speed, limited output. But in the late 18th century, that slow rhythm began to crack in Great Britain. In a damp land rich in minerals, people discovered how to unlock energy from the earth and scale it beyond anything seen before. This shift, starting around 1760 and later spreading across Europe and the United States, is what we call the Industrial Revolution, the turning point from hand production to machine production. It wasn't just a new invention here or there. It was the moment humans began using stored energy, built up over millions of years, to power a new kind of society. And Britain was in the perfect position to start the fire. In the mid-1700s, Britain was already a major commercial power with a global empire. But the biggest advantage was simpler than it sounds. Britain had huge coal reserves and coal was cheap. That cheap energy, mixed with aggressive business ambition, helped Britain pull ahead. Britain's early lead came from 5 big advantages. 1. Stronger farming output. Better tools and methods meant more food with fewer workers, freeing a large workforce to do other jobs. 2. Political stability and strong laws. Property rights were protected, and new business structures could form and grow. 3. Geography that made transport easier. As an island with coastlines and navigable rivers, Britain could move goods more efficiently. 4. A culture of science and experimentation. Discoveries from earlier scientific progress fed into invention and problem solving. 5. High wages. Plus cheap energy. Hiring people cost a lot, but coal was cheap, so it made sense to build machines that replaced human labor. That last point matters a lot. When labor is expensive and energy is cheap, machines stop being a luxury and start being a financial weapon. Before the factory era, many families worked under the putting out system. Work happened in homes and small villages. People spun wool or cotton into yarn, then wove it into cloth by hand. It was slow, but it was familiar. Then demand exploded, especially for cotton. Britain loved it so much it was treated like white gold. The problem, Britain couldn't match the fine cotton textiles coming from India. Indian labor was far cheaper, and the quality was exceptional. Laws like the Calico Acts tried to protect British producers, but pressure didn't end the demand. It pushed inventors to find a way to produce cotton cloth faster and cheaper than anyone else. The first major step came in 1733 with the flying shuttle, which allowed weaving to happen much faster. But it created a new bottleneck. Weavers could now outpace spinners. Suddenly, there wasn't enough yarn to feed the looms. That imbalance set off a chain reaction of inventions. The spinning jenny let one worker spin several threads at once. It was small enough to fit into a cottage, but it pointed toward a future where output could be multiplied. Richard Arkwright's water frame was bigger and needed river power, which pushed production out of homes and into large mills. He helped create the first true cotton mills where work became organized, controlled, and industrial. Samuel Crompton's spinning mule combined earlier ideas and produced thread that was stronger and finer than hand-spun yarn. The results were massive. Britain's raw cotton imports jumped from 2.5 million pounds in 1750 to about 588 million pounds by 1850. Manchester transformed into Cottonopolis, packed with factories, smoke-dark skies, and the non-stop hum of spinning machines. But as cloth became cheaper, the cost was pushed onto people. British machine production eventually undercut Indian artisans, damaging a world-class industry and leaving huge numbers of skilled workers without a livelihood. While textiles were changing the surface world, a different fight was happening underground. Coal mines kept going deeper, and deeper mines meant a constant enemy: flooding. Traditional pumps couldn't keep up, so miners needed a new solution. That pressure helped drive the rise of the steam engine. Early engines like Thomas Newcomen's were big and wasteful, but coal was cheap at the mines, so inefficiency didn't stop them. These engines made deeper mining possible, which meant more coal, which meant more fuel for everything else. Then came the breakthrough. James Watt realized the older engine design wasted steam by repeatedly cooling the cylinder. With support from Matthew Boulton, Watt improved efficiency using a separate condenser. The impact was huge. His engines used far less coal and eventually became powerful and reliable enough to drive factory machinery directly. Steam meant you could build a factory where it made business sense, not only where water power happened to exist. Steam spread everywhere. It powered furnaces, hammered iron, and drove looms. Mechanical power was becoming an invisible workforce that grew year after year. Steam also accelerated iron production. For centuries, iron smelting relied on charcoal, which limited output because wood supply was limited. But earlier advances showed that coke, processed coal, could fuel blast furnaces, allowing bigger furnaces and much higher production. Cast iron became cheaper and more common, turning into a major building material. New processes like puddling and rolling lowered the cost of structural iron even more. The work was dangerous and exhausting, and many workers didn't live long. But their labor produced the bridges, factories, and railways that physically reshaped the world. As factories expanded, Britain's landscape changed fast. This period became an age of massive urban growth. In 1800, only a small share of people lived in cities. But by the end of the century, urban living was becoming normal. People were pushed off rural land by changes like enclosure and pulled into cities by the promise of wages. Manchester became the model for this new industrial world. Its population surged from around 10,000 in 1717 to over 2.3 million by the early 20th century. But growth happened too quickly to plan properly. Housing couldn't keep up, and many families ended up crammed into filthy, overcrowded slums without sanitation. Observers described streets that felt dead and harsh, rivers poisoned by industrial waste and sewage, and daily life filled with disease. Clean water was rare. Illnesses like cholera and typhoid were widespread. In many industrial areas, life expectancy dropped hard, and child death rates were horrifyingly high. Factory work demanded a new kind of obedience. Rural work followed daylight and seasons. Factory work followed the clock. People had to match the pace of machines, not the other way around. Shifts often ran 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Many early textile workers were women and children. Child labor existed before, but factories made it harsher and more visible. Children as young as 8 were sent into dangerous spaces, crawling under moving machines to gather scraps or repair broken threads. They were paid only a small fraction of adult wages, which made them useful to factory owners in the worst possible way. This pressure helped trigger early labor reforms like the Factory Acts, which began limiting work hours and slowly moved children toward schooling instead of full-time factory labor. Even with all that suffering, industrial growth created a large new middle class: clerks, engineers, foremen, managers, and business owners. Many lived comfortably and helped drive a wave of consumer culture, where goods that once felt luxurious became affordable for more people. As production surged, old transport systems couldn't keep up. Factories needed fast, cheap ways to move coal, iron, cotton, and finished goods. First came canals. Projects like the Bridgewater Canal proved that water transport could slash costs, even dropping coal prices in major cities dramatically. Then railways took over as the symbol of the era. Rail transport depended on key pieces: strong rails, shaping mills, and powerful steam engines. Engineers realized that a steam engine on wheels, running on iron rails, could move huge loads at speeds people had never experienced. The first major intercity line between Liverpool and Manchester became a public sensation. Trips that once took days could happen in hours. Railways linked cities, spread ideas, created jobs, and shattered the isolation of rural life. Steam also changed ocean travel. Sailing improved over time, but steamships reduced dependence on wind and made global trade more predictable. The world started to feel smaller because goods and information could move with new speed and reliability. Britain tried to protect its industrial advantage, limiting the export of machinery and the movement of skilled workers. But the momentum was too strong. Other countries wanted in, and British business interests wanted expansion. Belgium industrialized early thanks to coal in Wallonia, building heavy industry that resembled northern England. France industrialized more gradually. Germany's growth accelerated with railways that created demand for steel, helping turn regions like the Ruhr into major industrial centers. The United States industrialized in its own way, including mass production through interchangeable parts. Japan modernized rapidly after the Meiji Restoration through deliberate, state-backed industrial development. Not everyone celebrated the new age. For many skilled workers, machines felt like a direct attack on their survival. Some responded by breaking into factories and destroying machines, while governments often protected industry with force. Out of this conflict came stronger worker organization. Trade unions grew from a simple realization: one worker can be ignored, but thousands can stop production. Over time, despite resistance and early bans, unions gained power and pressured employers and governments for better wages and conditions. The Industrial Revolution also sparked a battle of ideas. Karl Marx saw industrial cities and believed they exposed deep exploitation that would eventually reshape society. Romantic writers and artists pushed back differently, mourning what they saw as the destruction of nature and traditional life by factories and smoke. Even the environment began pushing back. Pollution became impossible to ignore, and over time laws began regulating toxic gases. Scientists connected dirty water to disease, leading to large sewer systems designed to divert waste away from rivers that had become open sewers. By the mid-1800s, the first industrial era had matured, but a second wave was coming, driven not by steam and iron but by steel, chemicals, and electricity. Processes like Bessemer made steel cheaper and more available, supporting new construction and giant corporations. The revolution didn't just reshape economies, it reshaped what it means to be human. From a species guided by seasons to a species that expects the world to move at machine speed. We inherited breathtaking convenience and speed, but also the weight of the pollution, exploitation, and disruption that came with it. Revolutions often arrive quietly. You don't notice the world has changed until you can't imagine living the old way again. Watching the past so we can understand the present. And together we keep history reborn. I'll see you in the next era.